Hi everyone. If anybody's there. Normally takes a few minutes, you see, for it to go onto the
no feed. Worries.
Hopefully people will join us. Can anyone hear me? Apparently no one's there.
Oh, that's great. So just have a little conversation, just you and I, it's fine.
Oh, we've got one person. We've got Danielle. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you for joining us. It's three of us now.
Yeah. We've got Megan. Can you hear us, guys? Just comment if you can, then we can make a start. All these 4 people. We're not totally alone now.
Yeah. Oh, just a notification on my phone's come up to say that we're doing the chat now.
Yeah,
good.
They can hear us. Right, let's begin. So yeah, hi everyone. So this is Charly Clarke, and she is going to talk about breastfeeding today. She's going to answer all the questions that you've already asked in the group. If you've got any more that you want answering, please just pop them in the comments, or you can send me a private message and I can read them out without your name if you don't want to have your name to it. She is a peer supporter for Mammas Breastfeeding, and obviously she'll know her stuff being part of that. She's also owner of Savannah Rose Baby Massage, which I actually attended with Martha when she was, I think she's about 6 weeks when we started, which was brilliant, so I can highly recommend her class. She's also got a new business called Parenting in Progress, which is antenatal classes, but I'll let her explain all about that. But yeah, over to you, Charly.
Brilliant. So hi everybody, it's nice that you've all come on to see me on this lovely Saturday afternoon. I know it's nice and sunny outside. I won't take too much of your time. Basically, as Jade said, I started up baby massage around 3 years ago and absolutely loved it. But I noticed through doing that there was a lot of parents that were coming to me with various issues, or just saying to me, I wish somebody would have told me about this, or I wish I'd have known. And there are a lot of antenatal classes out there, and all of them are brilliant in their own way. But I really saw a gap in the market for an antenatal class that had both parents in mind, and also was very practical based. Now, when I had my daughter, Savannah, who's coming up to 4 in a month, bless her, time flies, I've lost my train of thought already. When I was pregnant, When I was pregnant, I didn't want to go to an antenatal class because I was a very anxious mum. To know things because I feel anxious about them. However, I wanted to know about what to do when a baby arrived. I felt very worried about that. I thought, I'm going to have this baby and I'm going to come home and I'm going to be expected to care for it. The family, I'm an only child, so I don't have any nieces or nephews that were that young anyway. And it really worried me, and something that I have created, or what I have created, really caters for those sorts of people. Basically, it doesn't talk about birth or pregnancy. It talks about your baby when they are, what you can do to care them, basically. And like I said, it's all practical based. But yes, and I just launched it before all of this crisis happened. So it's just such a shame, but hopefully I'm going to build some online classes for it, and then when we're all back in the normal world, classes will start up again and we'll be able to go forward with that, and I'm very, very excited for it. So yeah, that's a bit about Parenting Progress.
It came at the wrong time, didn't it? Bad, but hopefully when all this is over, you'll get on to a good start.
Yeah, let's hope.
Right, I'm just going to start reading the first question and then we'll reel off. So like I say, anyone got any questions as you go along, please just comment. So Amy asks, any tips on how to breastfeed through mastitis?
So this, in case you know, there's 2 types of mastitis. There's one where you get sort of blocked ducts in the breast, so where milk kind of gets stuck. And then there is another one that is where sort of your nipples have cracked, or an infection has come through. And both have crossover symptoms. So One where there is a blocked duct, obviously you get quite a lot of pain in the breast. It feels warm to touch, feels lumpy. Whereas the infection kind, you can get that, but you can also get flu-like symptoms as well. So it's important if you're starting to feel feverish or starting to get chills or just generally feeling unwell with aches and pains as well as the other symptoms, that's when you really do need to visit your GP. That's something that you can't really manage at home. You do need antibiotics for that. The first kind of mastitis where you've got duct, what you can do is there's various things at home. You can take any paracetamol. So pain relief is really important there, and to keep going with that. Loads and loads of fluids, because we all know that when we're breastfeeding, we need to drink. It's so important that we drink. So you need to be taking in lots and lots of fluids. So just watch your teas and coffees and things like that. Obviously, when we're breastfeeding, we shouldn't be consuming too much caffeine anyway, but it can be easy to forget. So plenty of water, squash, massage as well. So massaging the breast, if there is something that's a little bit stuck, if we're massaging the breast, that can help to release the blockage a little bit and help with the lumps and bumps in there, so everything goes more smoothly. Feeding as well, the worst thing that you can do with mastitis is stop feeding. Even though it is quite painful through mastitis, you're going to get a bigger problem if you just suddenly stop feeding. So, and in between feeding, you should really be feeding regularly. Everybody will have their own pattern, but generally speaking, every 2 hours is what we need to be making sure that we're doing, at least with mastitis. And in between, if we're feeling full or if we're feeding regularly, we need to be expressing as well, because that will take away, it will keep everything going, it will keep everything running nice and smoothly. Also, rest is key. You got to remember, that your body it's doing a lot of work. It's trying to feed a baby and it's trying to flush out something that's getting stuck. So you need to rest as well. I think I've covered everything in that. Warmth as well. What you can do is you can use a warm flannel and pop that on the breast as well. Just to really pressure. The warmth is nice, and it does help to have a soothing effect. Okay. I think I've covered everything, Jade. We want to go on to the next question.
It leads on to the next one anyway. Danielle said, how can I ease the pain during breastfeeding? And Becca also said, how to help painful nipples when they're cracked and sore. So it's kind of all the same, but it might not be mastitis, just general pain.
So with breastfeeding as well, what we need to be mindful of, to try to avoid mastitis, with the first case that I talked about where there's obviously and things like that in the breast, is we need to make sure that we've got our latch right, and that's the way the baby attaches to the breast, because if we haven't quite got that right, that contribute to painful sore nipples, which we obviously don't want. It can also lead to cracking of the nipples as well. If the baby is feeding too shallow, so I've got my little boob here, so we know that when we're breastfeeding, we need to make sure that the baby has got a really, really good mouthful. Okay, so if we're shallow feeding, so this is imagine this is baby's mouth. So it needs to be sort of like this, and it needs to be slowly massaging the breast to be able to get the milk out. If we're shallow feeding, which is basically the baby starting and they're just pinching the nipple, the baby's, your nipple is actually going to be in the soft palate of the hard palate, of the mouth. So you feel the roof of your mouth. That's where it's going to be hitting constantly, and that's why it's going to be sore, and that's why it's going to cause problems. Also, another thing, and I found this with a lot of mums, is that particularly when we're really, really tired and we've been feeding a lot, that's when our latch kind of slips. And we don't always get it correct 100% of the time, and that can also contribute to sore nipples as well. To avoid mastitis, in the latch is absolutely paramount, but also we need to think about our positioning of ourselves, because that's something that we kind of overlook. So there's things out there that you can get, like different breastfeeding pillows and all sorts of stuff like that, which is nice. But sometimes they don't always help you to get in the correct position for breastfeeding. That's something that you need to bear in mind. When you're breastfeeding, your baby's head needs to be able to be free to tilt back to be able to get a good mouthful on the breast. And if your baby has something underneath it, a pillow, I'm trying to think, I haven't got a pillow here right with me, but if a pillow is sort of right there, a baby can't lift their head back. So it's not really going to help them to get that big mouthful to get that latch right. Also, your position needs to be sustainable. Because you're sat upright and you're sat in a difficult position and you're trying to hold your baby to breastfeed and you can't sustain that position, you're going to start to slouch, or your back's going to start to hurt, or you're not going to be able to get hold of the things that you need to. And that's also going to help you in the right position for the latch as well. So you need to pick a position that's going to be sustainable for you. It's going to sustain the amount of time that you're going to need to feed for. Okay. So yeah, I think I might that as well as with sore nipples as well. There are different creams that you can get, and some of them I've used in the past when I had my daughter and found them quite helpful. But really, the latch and position is key. I'd say that anybody that has, sore nipples, things like that, it tends to happen more in the early stages after having a baby, when you're starting to get used to it, you're getting in the swing of things, you're trying to get breastfeeding established. But generally, as weeks go on, it shouldn't really be something that you're suffering with. If you are, then maybe it's like some kind of support just to make sure that latch is right and just to make sure your position's right. Some ladies get it quicker than others, and I have been to a few ladies that have had particularly larger breasts and found it difficult to get in a right position to breastfeed. So there are ways you can do it. One of the ways is to roll up a muslin cloth and pop it underneath your bust, underneath your boob, so that baby can latch on that way. So that I had a friend as well. Bless her, she had big breasts, and she felt like every time she was feeding her baby, she was suffocating her baby, like her baby wouldn't be able to breathe. So she was holding up her breast the whole time that she was breastfeeding for the fear that her baby wouldn't be able to breathe. And in doing so, she was finding it really, really painful, and she was aching all over her shoulders because she wasn't just holding the baby, she was holding up her breast at the same time. And it wasn't until I showed her Hadlin underneath her breast that she no longer felt the need to hold her breast up, and she felt more comfortable. So sometimes it's seeking that extra little bit of support, or speaking to other mums as well, because other mums will tell you if they've discovered something, if they've done this massive discovery and it's really been brilliant. I remember, I don't even know it was your class, Jade, but I remember I didn't know when I was little that you could take the arms out of the breast, like you could strip them off from the top. I had no clue about that. The amount I dragged through Savannah's hair to try and get that off of her, and I didn't know that you could get the arms out at the top. That was a miracle discovery for me. Too late, mind, but those things.
Yeah, you find out a lot, don't you, from talking to other mums and just being open and honest with each other. And the things you talk about are things you never think like you would say to somebody, but you do, and you're all in it together. So you just talk about all the nitty gritty stuff, but you learn.
Yeah. There's no point being proud about it.
No, definitely. Just a question going back to the pain and things. Nipple shields obviously help with pain. They help me. But would you recommend them straight away, or would you try and establish breastfeeding straight away? Or
I would say it depends. They can sometimes help with inverted nipples and things like that. Generally speaking, as peer supporters, we don't recommend them unless they're needed. It's not something that we say, okay, that needs to go in your hospital bag list. It's something that, children that have got tongue tie and things like that, it can help with anterior and posterior tongue ties, things like that. It can definitely have an advantage to using them, but not all. I find them a bit more of a hindrance than a help. So I think it's down to personal situation, really.
Yeah, and I did say this in the antenatal class that we did as well, but when I had them, they were great, but I struggled like to get off them, and Martha never ever came back off the nipple shield. So if I'd forgotten them when we were out, or if I didn't have any clean ones, it was a nightmare, and she would never latch just on my nipple. So there is that to consider if you are going to a nipple shield. Yeah,
usually we kind of use them as a temporary kind of measure to try and encourage a baby. So it might be that the baby has had tongue tie and they're really struggling to latch the baby on. Nipple shields, but once the tongue has been cut, then they're able to be without them. So, but every situation is different.
Brilliant. So the next one, Gemma, can you give any advice on combo feeding?
Okay, yeah. Now, combo feeding I did with Savannah, and I didn't sort of do it through choice, but it really helped me in the long run. I really enjoyed doing it because it gave me a little bit of a break, and it gave Dad a chance to do some bonding as well. Definite advantages to doing it. Combi feeding, though, I would suggest that you wait until breastfeeding is established, especially your milk supply as well. So I'd normally say to people, wait at least 6 weeks until your supply has sort of come in, everything's ticking over nicely, we can see babies putting on weight, babies doing all the things that they should be doing. Then it would be a good idea to start to express your milk, or maybe it depends. I would be fed with formula milk. I didn't combi feed with breast milk, but if you do want to breastfeed mostly, I would say wait until your supply has been established, at least 6 weeks. Also, when you're doing it, something that nobody told me about was pace feeding. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Jade, but pace feeding, I was always told, I think it was by my mum, bless her, actually, just something that they were told when I was born, was that you shouldn't get any air in the bottle. So the bottle should be fully tipped up, and your baby should be sort of lying back and drinking it. Now, pace feeding is slightly different. Pace feeding, sorry, I've got one of Savannah's dollies. Pace feeding is where baby is actually sat up and you're giving them the bottle sat up, and there is a little bit of an element of air in there, but what you're doing is you're you're letting them drink it sitting up, and you're giving them little bits, and then you're watching their feeding cues. So what you'll find is when they're laying back and they're sort of chugging away at the bottle, because it's so far back and because they're chugging it so fast, the receptors in their stomach can't tell them when they're full. So there's a chance that you're going to be overfeeding them and feeding them really, really fast. So what you do is you can see their feeding cues. So they might start by clenching because they're really hungry, and then you'll start to see them sort of relax, and then you can see whether they're starting to feel satisfied, they're starting to feel full. But also you're mimicking breastfeeding when you're doing it, because they don't, if you notice when a child is breastfeeding, they don't constantly suck like that. The sucking kind of slows down every so often, or they stop and then they start again, and then they start and then they start again, and it mimics the same. So pace feeding is sitting them up and just every so often taking the bottle out of their mouth, letting them register that they've had a bit of milk, then put it back in. So by mimicking breastfeeding with the bottle, what you're doing is you're not allowing them to sort of get lazy in a sense. Towards the end of me breastfeeding Savannah, she was getting quite lazy because I wasn't taught to pace feed. So she didn't have to work for the milk. She didn't have to suck for the milk because she was laying down and it was just pouring down. Okay, so they don't want to really have to work for it if they don't want to, but in the breast they have to. So that's something that I would definitely recommend. And there are videos as well. What I was going to do is after the call, I was going to send you a few videos to put on that might help with the discussions that we've had. One of which is pace feeding. Another one is getting the latch right. Global Health have got some amazing videos that really do explain. They've got mums actually demonstrating it with their babies, because it's doing like these antenatal classes and talks and stuff on breastfeeding, but until you've got a mum right in front of you that's going to actually physically show you, it can be quite difficult to envision, especially if you've not had your baby yet. So those videos are really quite helpful. One actually covers colostrum as well, which I think is one of the other questions that we're going to talk about on the video.
Brilliant. I think I remember you telling me about that actually at our baby massage class, and yeah, I tried that with Martha and it did help a little bit, so
yeah,
could be worth a go.
They guzzle it back, and they just don't know they're full, and they have much bigger feeds than they breastfeed do. So, and then as well, you think as a mum, you start to panic and think, oh, maybe I'm not feeding them enough on the breast, because you can't see how much they're having on the breast. Yeah. And you think, oh, maybe I should go to formula because they're drinking so much more. And then they do come to the breast, they spend longer there because they're like, they should drink a little bit more. So yeah, it's a bit of a vicious circle.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, Charlotte has asked how best to collect colostrum. Yeah, I've written that down wrong, but how best to collect colostrum.
Yeah. So bless her, Charlotte, she's expecting a second, isn't she? Bless her. And she was on your baby massage course with you. So
she was.
I know
I met her, yeah. She's actually in for a newborn shoot as well with this baby. So
bless
nice
her.
To see her again.
Yeah. So yeah, colostrum. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. I noticed the lady that was doing an antenatal talk for you guys, I think her name was Isabel. Yeah, she said on there that you can actually collect colostrum whilst you're pregnant, which I actually didn't know. I had never been told that. So you get it before he's born. We leak sometimes and we don't even realise. It's a small amount, and it can be various different colours. And the reason it's such a small amount and it's so thick is because baby's got to learn to breathe and swallow at the same time. That's something they've got to learn to do, and having it a thicker sort of substance makes it a little bit easier for them to do that. Now, baby's tummy is the size of a marble, so they really, really don't need a lot. So a lot of people do panic and think, oh, my baby's not getting enough. If you have the latch right, they will be getting enough. So they only need that tiny amount. Now there's different ways that you can do it. You collect it in a spoon. So you would sort of hand express, which I know Isabella taught you to do on here. So what you can do is sort of express moving forward. I'm trying to do this on the video so you can see. So all we're doing is we're just gently massaging the breast, and we're just sort of pumping it almost. Okay, so you can do that, and you can literally on a spoon. That easy. Okay, you can do that at home, or you can do that in hospital. You can ask for a sterilised spoon, and you can do that. You can also do it through a syringe as well, and you can syringe feed them. But usually the best way to do it is just to pop baby on. You're going to stimulate your milk supply as well by doing skin to skin after you've had your baby. And usually the best thing to do is to have baby on you for at least a minimum of an hour after you've had your baby, and just let them work their own way up to the breast, because some of them can do that. Some of them need a little help depending on what medications you've had through the pregnancy as well. But just popping them on, they will be able to get that colostrum. If you think that you're going to have a cesarean section, or you think that you're, for whatever reason, not going to be able to, like the lady said, like Isabella said, you can collect your colostrum beforehand, or you can collect it after, and it's totally up to you.
Yeah, I didn't know you got it before either. I don't think I did. Well, I must have done, but I never noticed at all.
No, I didn't. I didn't notice. And my milk supply took a good 7 hours before it actually started to kick in. I remember going from nothing to completely drenched. It happened really, really quickly, but I had been pumping. I had been trying to stimulate my supply at the same time. But yes, it's strange because everybody's different. I mean, some people have like full milk before they've even given birth. So everybody is different, and you can never really tell what's going to happen until it happens, really.
It can be different for each baby as well, can't it? So even if you've established breastfeeding with your first baby, it could be completely different with your second. So there's nothing to say just like pregnancy can be totally different. Your breastfeeding experience can. But you just mentioned pumping there, and that's another question that I've so I'll just skip to that one quickly. So would you recommend pumping straight away? Because some say wait the 6 weeks, some say straight away. So
it depends on the situation. If you've got a baby that is a little early and needs to go to neonatal, you're going to be encouraged to pump. If you're wanting to breastfeed, because the likelihood is that your baby won't be able to breast milk to start with, depending on how poorly they are. Sometimes they have to have a special milk that's not even like formula, but it's to give them the fat to be able to get bigger, to be able to take on proper feeds. So in those cases, you wouldn't be able to breastfeed, you'd be encouraged to pump. But usually I would say establish your milk supply first, start expressing. I think that is important. I mean, in my situation, me and Savannah, bless her, she had jaundice. We got transported back to the LRI probably about 48 hours after we'd had her. Yeah, about 48 hours after we'd had her, and she had to go under the light. And it was because she wasn't getting enough, and that was actually because I wasn't getting it. I now know. I didn't know at the time. Even though I was trying to ask for help, I still wasn't quite getting the right kind of help, which is one of the reasons I wanted to be a peer supporter, because the help that I was getting was basically the midwives kind of just putting her on and going, oh yeah, she's fine, she's feeding fine. But when she left, I was like, I can't do that again. I can't put her in the same position. It just doesn't work when I do it myself. Whereas had I actually been told how to do it rather than just had her put on me, I probably would have been a bit better to do it and felt more comfortable. So, but yeah, I mean, I had to express and top up with formula when I was in the hospital to give her enough. And then, like I say, by the 72 hours, my milk supply had come in, and then I could get home and I was solely breastfeeding for a little while. But the doctor was still telling me to give sort of top-ups if I needed. So, but like we say, every situation is different. I mean, you can't kind of rely on the health professionals on what they're telling you, because they're the health professionals for a reason. But I think it does definitely help to have access to other support that perhaps can put it in a sort of a non-medical way, maybe explain it a little bit better sometimes.
Yeah. Right, brilliant, thank you. Sarah asks, how do I overcome the fear of breastfeeding in public?
No, I can completely identify with this as well, because I felt exactly the same. Now doing baby massage and things like that and seeing women's boobs on a regular basis, I feel quite empowered that if I was to have another one, I'd be absolutely fine. But I had no example. So yeah, it was really scary. But the things that I've learned is firstly to breastfeeding established at home. So maybe just plan little outings for the first sort of 6 weeks, maybe to mum's house or maybe to uncle's house or whoever, and do it at a time where you feel like you could go in a separate room and feed if you felt comfortable to do that, if that was what you were happy to do. Then once you feel like you've got the latch right, you feel more confident and you want to venture out and about, maybe plan your visit. So for example, if you were going up to the High Cross, there's family rooms that you can go in. If you don't want to breastfeed in public. There are cafes as well. If you check out on Charlwood Bras, I think it is, and there's certain other sites, you can actually go and feed in those cafes. They're sorry, excuse me a second. Something came up on my phone. There are certain cafes and things that they encourage breastfeeding. It might be that you sort of go to more of the corner of the cafe to start with, where it's a little bit more quiet and a bit more discreet for you, and then sort of venture out and do a little bit more. I think things come down to clothing choices as well, which make it a lot easier. So you might want to put a t-shirt on like me, but have sort of like a vest top underneath like that, so that you can sort of just lift one up and pull one down, so it's a bit more discreet. Also, you can get things like these that are really, really good. These are breastfeeding covers. so you can see absolutely nothing, and they've got kind of like a wire around the front. Okay, so I mean, that, don't get me wrong, there's absolutely no shame in breast public. It should be encouraged. It's a normal thing to do, but I completely understand why some people might feel uncomfortable doing it in public, or certainly not have the confidence to do it in public. So therefore, it's about gaining that, and it might be baby steps, but it's taking on other people's suggestions as well. So ask how to do it. I mean, I've had friends that are like, I don't, I just whip the boob out, it's not a problem, baby needs feeding, and that's great, power to you. But I just couldn't do that. I just wasn't brave enough to do that at the time, you know. Now it's a completely different story, you know. But
exactly
yeah,
I can relate. Before having Martha, I was like, yeah, I'll feed, I won't mind. Then when it came to it, I was like, oh no, I daren't do that. I don't get my boobs out in front of people. And
yeah,
around women, like my mum, my friends, my nan, anyone, I wouldn't mind. But I found it so awkward when I was in the room with my dad or my father-in-law. I just had to go into a room, place the latch, and come in with like a muslin cloth over. And even then I felt awkward, like they know that my baby's like sucking on my boob, and it's just a weird, even though it's not weird, but you feel like it's weird. So you'll change your mind when baby's here one way or the other anyway. But
yeah, you do until baby's here. You never, you know, you never know. There's a bit of a vulnerability about it for a lot of people, isn't there? And I felt vulnerable, and I felt vulnerable to people's comments as well. I thought a lot of people were going to be, what are you doing that here for, and why aren't you giving your baby a bottle, or things like that. And I worried about that criticism, but most people are really lovely.
Yeah, I think
a lot of people are like, oh, that's fantastic that you're doing that, keep going. And you know, a lot of people are really brilliant. I mean, nobody is going to say that your boob is out, because nobody's going to want to just whip it out. You know, you are going to take precautions to make sure you are being discreet, because you don't really want to feel like you're exposing yourself. So, you know, it's one of those things when baby's here, like you'll feel different about it one way or the other, but it's looking at different measures. There are always ways to be able to feel more comfortable. So don't ever think, oh God, I can't do this, and oh, I'm never going to be able to breastfeed because I can't do it in public, or I'm going to have to be a hermit for the first year because I can't dare go out and show my boob. You know, there are different ways, and you know, are starting to turn around about it and support it more. And yeah, like I say, there are different things that you can do. Clothing choices is a big one. You've got to be wearing something that you feel comfortable in, and something that you think, you know, you're going to be able to hold your baby in a position where you're going to not feel exposed. Those capes as well, like I showed you, I didn't have one of those. I would have loved one of those. I was doing it with blankets and getting myself into a right faff. You know, those tangled. Yeah, and then you're like, oh my God, suffocate my baby, I've got that many blankets on me trying to hide. You know, no, definitely get one of those.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to eat with something over your head. You can do something comfortable for the baby. But Charlotte has just commented saying that she'd fed Henry for 20 months, and there's a page she found called Can I Breastfeed in it, just about outfit ideas and things, and it is in the comments if people want to just refer back to that.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Charlotte, that's brilliant.
So
fantastic.
It could be worth looking for some ideas, because you don't have to spend loads of money on maternity wear.
God, no. I remember looking in Mothercare when I first had Savannah, and there were like dresses for like £50, and I'm thinking, why? Just because it's got an hole in it?
I know, you don't need it. I hardly had anything, to be honest. I just had things that I could whip out easy, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Bigger jumpers, bigger t-shirts, strappy top underneath, job done.
That's it.
Yeah.
And who knows when we're all out, so you might not need to worry about going out in public anyway. Just to make a little...
I have to think your babies won't be 3 by the time we come out of this. But I mean...
Right, next question. Lindsay, she had a similar problem where she was a bit nervous about it, and with her second baby, her husband doesn't think she should breastfeed, so how can she encourage him to support her about that?
I thought this was a really good question, because I think a lot of people don't realise that it's not just about the mum, it's about the family, and your family choice. Ultimately, firstly, you've got to figure out exactly why he's not so keen. Okay, because that can uncover a whole load of different things. It could be that he's worried that he's been able to have the chance to bond with the other two because the other ones have been bottle fed, and he's not going to get the chance to bond with this one. It might be, and that's not true anyway, but that might be what he's thinking. There might be lots and lots of different reasons as to why he's not so supportive. Second thing you need to do is you need to really look at why you want to do it, why it's important for you to do it this time. Because I think as well, sometimes we put quite a bit of pressure on ourselves, and I know she says she's not going to put pressure on herself, but sometimes we kind of inwardly do. And that's, and when we can't do something, doing something, that's when we feel we've failed, and we haven't. But we have that, like, we don't do something. So it's important to establish why she wants to. Okay. And then it's important for her, if she does want to do research herself as to why she wants to do this. So if he's anything like my husband, he wants information. Get him to watch a video on breastfeeding like we're doing. He won't do it. He wants to know facts, and this is why I want to do it because of X, Y, and Z. So it's important that she has enough knowledge about why it's important to her. It might be that she's looking at it from a health point of view. It might be that she's looking at it from an economical point of view. It could be encompassing all of those things, but what she needs to do is she needs to figure out her why, and she needs to have the evidence to back it up, to present with her husband, to sit down, have that discussion and say, I really want to breastfeed because, and it's important to me because, and, maybe ask why he doesn't feel like he supports it. Or it might be that from those questions he comes out about why he's there. It opens up a discussion. And I think as well, it needs to be something that she's going to want to follow through with if she's going to do it. So definitely thinking about why, and perhaps if her why is strong enough and she knows she's got the evidence in her own mind to back it up, if husband's still not supportive, it's not going to matter, because she knows why she wants to do it and she's got the confidence to go out and do it anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And like I say, going to what you said, once baby's here, you just kind of do what naturally happens anyway, so things might change still.
Yeah, they may do.
Like either or might feel different here, but yeah, it's good to have a chat and have the reasons why you're falling against
definitely.
It and come to a compromise, but ultimately you are mummy, so as hard as that sounds, like you are the mums.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that there are other ways for dad to bond with the baby. I mean, baby massage is a brilliant way to bond with baby. Maybe, I know it sounds daft, changing pooey nappies and things like that, but every time daddy can do sort of the nappy changes and play with baby while he's doing that. There are different ways that dads can bond with their children other than feeding them. But I think when a new baby comes into the house, whether it's the first baby, second, third, I think there's a lot of anxiety about changes and how it will affect things. And I think it's important to sit down and have those discussions, even though they're quite sensitive ones. And men don't always, bless them, they don't always get it. There's a lot of emotion that goes in towards obviously having babies and things like that. For as women, there's a lot of hormones involved and we can get hurt quite easily. And I can remember having a raging row with my husband on one day about something he'd not done and that he didn't care and that he wasn't helpful when I was pregnant, all this kind of stuff. And I came home and he'd done the nursery. And I just sat there sobbing and feeling like a complete and utter ninny, that I just got over emotional about something. But emotions are heightened, hormones are heightened, everything's massive in our lives when we're pregnant. And it's just about trying to have those discussions in a sensitive way.
I was exactly the same. I think I'm still like it now, like 19 months later. It never leaves you, does it?
No, that's a lack of sleep.
Yeah, that's probably it. a
Yeah.
few anonymous inboxes. Somebody's asked, what are the restrictions on drinking alcohol when breastfeeding?
Okay, so they changed the rules on this a little while ago. They were very much no, can't drink at all, and all that kind of stuff. What you've got to kind of appreciate is that anything that you go on. Sorry, darling. I have a 4-year-old that just pops in every now and again. She's come in to tell me that she's had a wee. That's nice. So where was I?
Alcohol.
Thank you, alcohol. So basically they were very much like, no, can't do it. But you have to bear in mind that anything that you eat or drink is ultimately going to go into your milk. So some before they've had a drink do like to express and put that into a bottle if they're combi feeding, that baby's not had any of what they're drinking. And sometimes they say now probably a couple of glasses of wine a week is okay. Obviously not regularly, if you can help, but a couple of glasses a week is fine. But it also comes with a bit of a disclaimer, and that's to not sleep with your baby if you are drinking, because a lot of the normal kind of things that happen when we're breastfeeding our baby don't always happen once we've had a few drinks. We can be a little bit more sleepy, a little bit more receptive to their needs. It's a little bit more dangerous, so we just need to keep in mind that we take precautions if we are going to have a drink. I mean, it's lovely outside, it'd be really nice to have a little tipple, but just bear in mind that it's not too much. 1 to 2 glasses a week, if that, and that you're taking precautions for your little one just to safeguard yourself and them.
Thank you. Right, there's one more question that's come in, so if anybody else does have any questions, now is your time to either inbox me if you want it private, or just comment, otherwise you might not get to ask it. So the last one, will my C-section delay my milk coming in, and if so, do I give formula until then?
Okay, so sometimes it can, not always. Sometimes it can. Also, something that can affect your supply in the beginning stages is if you've lost quite a bit of blood in labour, because it's actually your blood that makes the breast milk. So sometimes that can have an effect. So you don't need to use formula in between. What you need to make sure that you do is lots of skin-to-skin contact. So for anybody that doesn't know what skin-to-skin contact is, it's both mum and baby have mum's bare chest and baby is naked on mum, and it regulates temperature, regulates all sorts of different things, and helps to calm baby, and it helps to stimulate your milk. Doing that is absolutely paramount after you've had your baby anyway, but also it's really, really good. I've lost my train of thought. Do you know this happens when they steal this from you, don't they? Things go in, and then when you least expect them, they come back in when you finish the conversation, even 12 hours ago, and you're like, that's what I meant to say. So it can affect your milk supply, but it doesn't always. So the skin is paramount, and also trying to feed within the first hour after you've had baby as well. So just put baby to breast. Even if you think that they're not really going to get anything, still put baby to breast. They're still going to get that little bit of colostrum. Also, when you've just had a C-section, it can be a little bit tricky to get the latch right because of your comfort levels and whether you're comfortable to sit, whether you're comfortable in certain positions. That's where pillows do often come in, and it's just about being quite forceful with the midwives to say, I need to feed, can you help me? Because I think we see that they're really busy, we don't want to press those buzzers, don't want to keep calling them back, but you need to feed your baby. That is a priority. They'll find somebody for something else, or they'll come to you, but you need to ask for help if you need it. Don't sit there and think, I can't ask them. Use them. And also a good I didn't want to be in hospital when I had wanted a home birth. That's what I planned. I'd even got a blow-up pool for the lounge downstairs. And I ended up having to go in. But I was very much like, I don't want any sort of medical intervention if I can help it, but that's just me. So they'd said to me after I'd had Savannah, do you want to go to St Mary's in Melton? And I said, no, I want to go home. Now, if I was to have another one, I would book in there for a week and not come out. Because those midwives are bloody brilliant in there. Absolutely brilliant. And they really, really do help with a lot of things. They help you to get your breastfeeding established. They help teach you how to co-sleep. They help you teach you how to feed laying down. They, nothing's too much trouble for them. They'll pop in and out, regularly. So if you do get the opportunity, if they do say to you, do you want to go to St Mary's? Say yes. Say yes, I will go. I'll book in for a week.
A lot of my clients have said, it wasn't an option for me, but it's an option for everybody. Nobody said to me, do you want to go there? And I actually said, look, I want to give birth there, and after, if I don't happen to give birth there. So if it's something that you want, make sure you say that to your midwife at your appointments, because it might not be offered. Even though it was my local one, they didn't say that to me. And highly recommend it. I said it in my last video, I'll always say it, I can't recommend them enough. They're amazing, and I wouldn't have breastfed without their help. So
and what I often say to my parents as well, the sort of pregnant ones, I always say to them, like, make sure, even with your birth like that and what you want, make sure your partner knows, so that if you can't communicate it for whatever reason, they can. So if when you come out of theatre and you're recuperating well and there's an option for you to go, but they haven't asked you, maybe partner can go and ask them and say, this is what we wanted to do, is there a possibility to do it? So it is a good idea to make sure that they're clued up on everything that you're wanting, maybe why you're wanting it as well, so you can discuss it together.
That goes back to yesterday's class as well. If nobody happened to catch that, you can re-watch it with Sarah. She said about preparing your birth plan with your birth partner as well, so that's definitely worth watching in relation to what Charly's just said.
Definitely.
Does anybody else have any more questions? Because I've answered everything that people have put in. If not, then we're all good. But thank you for your time, Charly.
That's all right. Something that I want to mention as well, if I can, is being trained with Mammas. We help with all types of feeding. So please don't ever think that, you can't contact me or anything like that, because it's not a breastfeeding. You can ask me any questions about feeding. That's absolutely fine. Also things in my antenatal classes, I cover things like going back to work, because that's anxiety for a lot of ladies, especially if they're breastfeeding, thinking, what am I going to do when I've not got my baby in front of me? How am I going to manage that? How is my baby going to manage that wherever they are? So that is something that I do put into my antenatal classes, because I know that's been a big worry for a lot of parents. Also, if you go onto my parent page, what I've been doing is I've been doing quite a lot of posts just on general things, like on reusable nappies, about going back to work, about maternity and paternity policies, about baby massage, about baby wearing, loads and loads of different topics on there. And I just give people snippets of information that they can then go off and research themselves, because one of the things I know overwhelmed with me was that when you type in a specific question to Google or whatever, many different things come up and they all give different answers or different variations, and it can be really, really overwhelming and confusing. And you're thinking, okay, do I go on what that one says, or do I go on what that one says? So when I've done posts like that, I've often posted where I've got it from, or signposted you to where correct information is. So it's a bit less overwhelming. It takes you straight to that point, instead of going through lots of different sites and thinking, well, maybe I might choose that one. Okay.
Yeah, and feel free, Charly, to put your website and things in the comment area, just so people can refer to that. So
Thank you.
There's no more questions.
And
coming. Sorry, go on.
I'll pop those videos on as well, love, as well. The pace feeding, and also one of the global health ones, the colostrum and getting the latch right. So hopefully that will help the mums as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, if anybody does watch this later, when we're not live, obviously, just comment if you've got any questions. I'm sure Charly will be happy to answer them in a comment. She's in the group, so feel free to tag her, me, anyone, and go from there. But yeah, thanks for everyone tuning in. Thank you, Charly, for your time. And enjoy the sunshine in your garden.
Yes,
Bye,
enjoy
everyone.
while it lasts. Bye.
Bye.